and welcome to the December 13th, 2022 Charleston County Historic Preservation Commission meeting. This meeting has been noticed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. This commission acts in review and recommending capacity for designations and removal of historic properties and districts. The commission also reviews proposed National Register of Historic Places nominations. The commission has final decision-making authority on certificates of historic appropriateness. I would like to introduce myself. I am the vice chair, and to my left is Margie Longshore and Jason Crowley. To my right is Lori Lechner, Pat Sullivan, and Melanie Millar. Seated at the desk in front of me is Commission Attorney Mark Bell and Joel Evans, Director of Zoning and Planning. Joel, please introduce your staff.
To my left, Andrew Nelson, Deputy Director at the podium. Emily Pickett, she will be the defenses. Over on my left, to that side over there, I have some more staff members. Tamara Avery, she's our subdivision planner. Matthew Husman, she's also with our subdivision. And we have Emily Wynn, she works with the Planning Commission doing rezonings.
Thank you.
And Marche. No, sorry. And most important person is right. Absolutely.
Thank you. I would like to remind you that in order to get a good recording of the meeting for the minutes, please speak loudly and clearly into your microphones. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the October 18th, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion and a second?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those who approve the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those who disapprove, say nay. Have it. The motion is approved. Minutes are accepted. The next agenda item is HIST-11-22-00063, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily?
Thank you, Vice Chair Gardner. As stated, this request is for a certificate of historic appropriateness for retroactive clearing and grubbing, as well as a concrete slab installation and proposed accessory structure at 2968 Bobo Road, also known as TMS number 583-0000215, and that is a property within the Phillips Community Historic District. The Phillips Community Historic District was designated by County Council in August of 2021. Here is the location of the subject property when looking at the county as a whole. And here's a map of the historic district showing the location of the subject property off of Bobo Road. The Phillips community is a Reconstruction era South Carolina Land Commission platted community where former plantation land was subdivided and sold to black and white landless farmers and tradesmen. The district currently covers roughly about 420 acres. The subject property is zoned S3, Special Management, and contains a single-family dwelling unit. The future land use designation is Urban-Suburban Cultural Community Protection. Surrounding properties are also zoned S3 and contain either single-family dwelling units, manufactured housing units, or are undeveloped. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. And these are photos of the subject property themselves and also of neighboring properties along Bobo Road. And here is the proposed site plan. So it shows the existing one-story home as well as the cleared area where the gravel driveway now exists along the eastern property line. The concrete slab has already been placed in the northeast corner of the property where the proposed carport and accessory structure are shown. The applicant provided responses to all of the applicable approval criteria, and because the approval criteria have been satisfied, staff recommends approval. This meeting was noticed as required. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. We appreciate staff's comprehensive report. Are there any questions for staff from commission members?
I have a question.
Yes. Jason.
Do we know what the accessory structure will look like? I see the footprint in the plan. I'm not sure what the actual proposal will be. Will that have to come back before us, or?
Sir, so elevations are not required as part of the application, but the applicant is here and he might be able to speak more about the aesthetics of the structure. I know it's proposed carport and accessory storage, personal storage.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in support of this request?
My name's Tom Bellino, and my daughter's Rachel that owns it. What we're going to do with that, you saw pictures originally, there's a tractor. So basically part of it is going to house the tractor and the implements. The other part's just going to be a covered area. So she'll have picnic tables, kind of a covered outdoor area.
Thank you.
Sorry, any other questions?
Thank you. Do you have anything else you'd like to add? Or?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this request?
My name is Jonathan Ford. I reside at 2906 Canyon Lane. There's no opposition. We just want to address the drainage to make sure that any runoff is maintained on the property or use the existing ditches that are in the area. So that's our only main concern, the runoff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've already put in 400 feet of drain field, and in the back corner where it says Lot 9A, it's basically like a drain for a septic tank. So I've got drainage down both sides and across the back because it was holding water. I also own the two lots to the right and put in my own drainage over there too. So that affects none of the drainage because I've already handled that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I have another question for staff, please.
Yes, Jason.
So it looks like total impervious area is about a little over 21%. Does this comply with all the staff requirements and everything in terms of pervious and impervious for drainage and everything?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you for asking.
Before discussion, is there a motion and a second from the commission?
Motion to approve.
Yep.
The motion has been moved and properly seconded from the commission. Is there any discussion from commission members? If there is no further discussion, we can vote. All those who approve the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those who approve say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is approved. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the Historic Preservation Commission chooses to appeal this decision, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. The next agenda item is HIST 11-22-00064, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily?
Thank you. As stated, this request is for a certificate of historic appropriateness, and this is for neighborhood sign zoning permit applications and 21 single-family dwelling unit zoning permit applications for the overlook at Copahy Sound, known as TMS 614-00-00139, 3906 Seafood Road, a property within the 10-mile Community Historic District. Recently approved applications for this property include an approved preliminary plat for 21 home sites on October 21st of 2020. In February of 2021, County staff approved a zoning permit for the clearing and grubbing for the overlook at Copiahe Sound. In January of 2022, county staff approved a zoning permit for the installation of a temporary sales office trailer and a handicap ramp for the same development. And then in June of this year, of 2022, the 10-mile community was designated by County Council as a Charleston County Historic District. Prior to the Historic District approval in April of 2022, an application for the final plat for the overlook at Copiahe Sound subdivision was submitted. In September of 2022, after the Historic District designation, a zoning permit application for 2 subdivision signs at the entrance for the overlook at Copiahe Sound was submitted. Applications are reviewed under the ordinance at the time of application submittal. So applications that were submitted prior to the Historic District designation are not subject to the review of the Historic Preservation Commission. So that's why we're just looking at the zoning permit applications for the homes and the signage at this point.
Can you explain that? What do you mean by the zoning application for the homes?
Yeah.
So are we looking at the site plan or are we looking at the buildings? Just wanted that clarification.
Sure, absolutely. So this is the location of the subject property when looking at the county as a whole. Here's a map of the 10-mile Community Historic District showing the property along Seafood Road. The property is zoned low-density residential R4 and is undeveloped. Future land use designation is urban, suburban, cultural community protection. Surrounding properties are zoned R4 or natural resource management and contain either single-family dwelling units or are undeveloped. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. When County Council adopted the 10-mile community as a locally designated historic district, the area covered roughly 680 acres. The 10-mile community was recognized in the 2016 Charleston County Cultural Resources Survey update as a remnant freedmen community having significant social organization and settlement patterns. Here are images of the subject property showing the infrastructure that has already been installed. Here are photos of the neighboring properties along Seafood Road. Here is the approved preliminary plat for the overlook at Copiahe Sound, developed under the by right R4 zoning, showing 21 home sites and open space. Here's that proposed final plat, again, that was submitted prior to the Historic District designation, and is thus not subject to the review of the commission. The applicant has provided typical site plans for the development, which you can see here. And the applicant also provided these images as typical home selections. These slides show the typical elevations for the proposed development. And here you can see the proposed signage details. On the entry concept, you can see that they are requesting 2 monument signs, which will be uplit by LED in-ground lighting. The applicant also provided responses to all of the applicable approval criteria. And because the approval criteria have been satisfied, staff recommends approval with the following conditions. The first, requiring installation of interpretive historic signage on the property prior to final plat approval. And number 2, not allowing drive under elevated dwellings unless required to meet the building code. We have received 5 letters in opposition to this request, and this meeting was also noticed as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. We appreciate the staff's comprehensive report. Are there any questions for staff from commission members? Melanie? Oh, Jason. Okay, Margie, go ahead.
Since the plat has already been submitted prior to the historic designation, the number of lots has been determined and cannot be reduced, right? Okay, thank you.
So I guess I'm still confused by that. what are we looking at in terms of the subdivision if we're not able to look at the number of lots? Because I've got a lot of concerns about this. What are we looking at?
You're looking at the house plans and the site plan for each, and the signage.
So with the site plan, let's start with that question. What are we looking at with the site plan? Because I see a very dense site plan that is wholly out of character with this community. So what are we able to do here? I mean, we have a subdivision that appears to have started before this district was designated. So what are we able to do?
I guess based on whatever the Historic Preservation Commission's thoughts are on the approval criteria, knowing the parameters that we have, that there's a preliminary plat that's already been approved prior to the district. I mean, if there are certain things, in this particular case, the houses do have to be elevated anyway because they're in a flood zone, so the Historic Preservation Commission can't change that. If there's something else about the bulk of the houses that the Planning Commission wants to, discuss, I guess that can be discussed as well.
I think that's, I have a question as far as the number of homes per, what was it, per acre?
It's all zoned R4, which is 4 dwelling units per acre.
I can help you with that. I actually, I ran the numbers, so I did it myself, but I came up with a proposal of 3.4 dwelling units per Highland acre, which again, like Joel said, would be under the 4 allowed.
What is the number currently, I mean, how home, is it 1 per acre in the, right now? As far as
It's 4 per acre.
Yeah, 4
The
per
whole-
acre is
the whole-
allowed.
Right. The entire historic district is zoned for.
Zone
4.
4, but what is currently the,
Oh, the built out.
Yes,
You're talking about the
yes,
built out.
yes.
I do not know the answer to that.
do you have any information on that? Is that one, the build out? I mean, is it 1 per acre as far as the homes that are there now? I'm just talking about the homes that are already there. They're not built to be a quarter.
Do you have the lot plan or something like that of the district to show
The
like,
current
what this
dwellings.
would, what this would look
Current.
like superimposed? Because
Yeah.
that's what this district looks like. So if we're looking at what is, appropriate, that looks appropriate. This doesn't look like that to me.
Do I need to be recognized to ask?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, the zoning is just about 4 per acre. However, if you go to any of the settlement communities in Charleston County, you will see that similar zoning is in place, but the people who live there don't build their houses accordingly. You will typically see a house per acre. So this is totally out of character to what is in the 10-mile community. It's totally out of character to all of the other settlement communities that I've been in the last several years. So I don't know if I'm making myself clear or not. This is out of character.
I understand, and I just want to clarify one thing, that the majority of our other settlement communities does have a different zoning attached to them. It's, yes, the S3, the 3 units per acre versus the 4 units per acre. I just wanted to make that clarification.
Oh,
to the
3 versus 4.
Yes.
Yes. But they don't use it. That's the key difference here. When you look at the developments, when you drive through the developments, when you visit the people there, you will see that they typically have 1 dwelling unit on an acre. So coming in with more houses per acre with the proposal here is totally out of character to the typical vernacular settlement communities.
Yeah, and I did want to remind the commission that, as we said, the plats have been approved.
I understand
Yes,
that.
yes.
We
So,
all understand that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I guess I'm still, the preliminary plat has been approved, but has the final plat been approved?
So the final plat has not been approved. However, it was submitted in April, and our regulations state that applications are reviewed at the time, the ordinance at the time of application submittal. So since it came in prior to the historic district designation, it's not subject to the commission's review.
So we're not looking at the site plan.
You're not looking at the preliminary plat and the final plat. The site plans are part of this application, which is the houses and the locations of the houses and the elevations that the applicant submitted. But as far as the subdivision of the land, that was all submitted prior to to create the lots for a dwelling. That was all submitted prior to the historic district being designated.
Well, then I kind of feel like we need to be taking these one house at a time, not typical site plans, because, I mean, how can we be looking at typical site plan when we need to be looking at specific site plan if we're not looking at the development as a whole? Does that make sense to me, to folks? I mean, I guess like we need to have a detailed plan by plan and then a separate sign application for us, and if that's how we're going to be going about this in this instance, which I guess would be the next three or the next other two as well, right? I mean, don't we have three that are all almost identical in this one neighborhood? I mean, we're looking at a lot of houses coming into one neighborhood, but not the site plan.
Well, other than what's submitted in the application, which does show the site plan and a potential house on it, that Emily has on the screen right now.
Well, I can't see what this looks like. I mean, if I zoom in on my iPad, you can't see any details on it, so I don't know how.
Well, it shows the driveway and the building footprint, which are the two things that we look at in a site plan submittal for a home.
I kind of feel like this is a planning commission application for a historic preservation commission right now. I mean, maybe it would make sense, Madam Vice Chair, to have the applicant speak, because I don't understand what I'm looking at here.
Did we just want further clarification on just procedurally what we're doing in terms of like?
Yes, if the commission has more questions than what staff is able to answer in the application, I think it is appropriate to ask the applicant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the applicant available?
Present who wishes to speak in support of this request?
Would you like the applicant to speak, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, thank you. My name is Ellis Leisman. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I'd like to introduce a few folks. I have in the second row here Mr. Ryan Leaphart, Mr. Joshua Craig, also Mr. Sherman Wilson, who's the Director of Architecture for Crescent Homes, and Karna Robinson and Raya Collier. All are here on behalf of the applicant for the three applications that are before the commission. I wanted to thank Mr. Bell and Joel and Emily for their assistance so far. And again, we have different areas of expertise represented here. So depending on what Mr. Crowley's specific question or what other commissioners may have, as there are specific questions, I know there's someone here to answer them. But if I might briefly, and Madam Chair, thank you. I think that you had given me the opportunity to speak. This is a unique situation in terms of the commission and its jurisdiction. Obviously, the Historic Preservation Ordinance gives you extremely broad discretion in terms of alteration, modification of properties that are within a area that's been designated as historic. However, this project and these 3 projects that are before you started years before that designation was made, just in June of 2022. And I would beg to differ that these are completely out of character. While there certainly are houses that are on an acre lot or on 2-acre lots, there are neighborhoods and cul-de-sac developments within the 10-mile community that have similar density, that have similar home sites, and that have elevated homes. So in that respect, we believe that this is within the community because it's not detracting from it. It's not taking away from it. Is it supposed to be exactly like it? Well, if you look at the Secretary of Interior's standards, it says historic preservation and the standards that you all are aware of isn't required that you build something that's exactly like it. As Joel explained, we have a situation where you have R4 zoning. It allows for 4 dwellings per acre. There are 3.4 in this development. The minimum lot size in R4, which almost all of the properties in this 10-mile district are zoned R4, you can have a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. These lot sizes go from 7,000 square feet to over 20. What I think is important to remember is that when the county approved the plat, when the county approved for the property to be cleared, when the county approved for a construction sales office to be installed, when DHEC OCRM issued their coastal zone consistency determination, when the county issued its MS4 determination, and when DHEC issued the NPDES or the ground disturbance permit, this property was not designated historic. It was not within this commission's purview. All those approvals were based on these plans. My client's decision to purchase the property was based on that plan and those approvals. They've so far spent $3.4 million in accordance and in reliance on all of those approvals that were granted before. Yes, it is part of the historic district now. Yes, we are very proud of the architectural plans. And again, Mr. Wilson's here to discuss those. We'd love to talk about the materials and the different styles because we believe that they're in keeping, particularly with the homes that are located on Robbie Glover Road and also on Seafood Road that are in this immediate area right facing the Copahy. But this is a unique instance where you already have these 3 projects, all of which subject to approved preliminary plats, final plat approvals having been submitted on 2 of them, and with all those other approvals that are in hand. So in that instance, setbacks are being followed. We're using appropriate materials. The home design is in keeping with the home design that is there, but we have these approved plats that are vested under state law, county ordinance, and federal law as well. So we look forward to being part of the community. We look forward to the opportunity before this commission. The county staff did ask us to come before this commission based on the subsequent designation of the property as being within this commission. But again, with those approvals, with that investment, we again believe that that site plan is not before the commission, but we are here welcoming the opportunity to talk about the signage, to talk about the architecture of these structures, which we're proud of and is an award-winning designs that have been developed by the company. I would like to speak briefly before I open the floor, before Madam Chair may open the floor to questions. There was one point with the staff, again, having reviewed this, having worked with us, is recommending approval of the application. Of course, it's your decision as to how you take that recommendation. But again, the county's folks that are professionals and are detailed with this task believe that it meets the criteria for approval, again, with all the facts added that I've mentioned. One thing I did want to discuss is 2 of the conditions. The first, that we install interpretive signage. We are fully in support of that and look forward to doing that to support the history of the area. Also, we've received requested street names from members of the community, that one be called Society Hall, that one be called Janie Mitchell Road. We're in support of those requests as well. In the past several years, my client, working together with the Askew family, actually one of these sites, not this one, but another one, was purchased from the Askew family. We've worked to bring 9 fire hydrants will be installed in this area to improve the ability to fight fires, and that thousands of feet of water and sewer line. There's now 20 additional homes, 20 additional residents of this area who now, if they wish, can tap into the sewer system and no longer have to rely upon a septic system for their sewer for their home. And work together also to get Mount Pleasant Waterworks to approve a new policy to where a homeowner, if they want to add into the water system, does not have to be contiguous to the town of Mount Pleasant. They don't have to make that decision to annex. They can be able to stay unincorporated county, but be able to have greater access to water service merely by agreeing that if they do become contiguous, that they would do that. We worked hand in hand with residents of the community to do that, and that's paying off in Snowden, and that's paying off in for residents of Phillips and 10 Mile and other communities. Last thing I wanted to say was that second condition about elevated dwellings. Again, this property is right across the road from the Copiahee Sound and the Intercoastal Waterway. If, Emily, could you show that last slide of that presentation that I had?
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. And Joel, thank you, Emily. Joel had made a clarifying comment about this. This is a slide of some photographs that are in the property. The 3 on the top are actually either on Robbie Glover or on Seafood. The one to the right is actually the 10 Mile Community Center. The one in the middle is the Askew property, and the one on the left, I'm not sure who the owner is. The one below it, the yellow home, is also on Robbie Glover Road, which again is right there facing Copiahee Sound. Those 4, there's really not that many homes right on that area. A lot of that property is undeveloped, but all 4 of those are of an elevated style. The last photograph on the bottom right is not in the immediate area, and it is a newer construction, but again shows an elevated, it's on Tip Lane, but it is again showing that these homes are elevated. In this particular instance, the reason all those homes are elevated is due to their proximity to water. They're in a VE flood zone, or if they're not, further back, they're in AE 12 or AE 11. So we just would ask the Commission's indulgence, to approve these applications, to approve this application, to please address and to take advantage of Mr. Wilson and the other folks that are here. But we would ask that condition not be applied. Again, as Joel clarified, many of these properties need to be elevated anyway because of their location, but just so that there wasn't any confusion, and in keeping with these properties that I'm showing to you, we just would ask that the application be approved without the addition of that second condition. And thank you, Madam Chair, again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And again, can offer all these folks here if you have any questions for them.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this request? And please limit your comments to, I think we have maybe 2 presentations that were 5 minutes, or
3, yeah, he had one for each application.
5 minutes.
okay. If there's anyone who wishes to speak in support of this request, please come forward. Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward. Please state your name and address clearly into the microphone. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Edward Pinckney. I live at 3768 Robbie Glover Road, Allendale, South Carolina. Emily, would you mind pulling up that last slide of the homes?
Yes, sir.
So my house is the one you referenced, the one on the left. On that particular road of Robbie Glover Road, those houses are on 3 acres per lot. So to reference them that they are somehow synonymous with the community and subdivision that's coming in, I believe is disingenuous. This new subdivision, I believe, is four houses per acre, and these houses are listed as like one house per 3 acres. What you're actually debating on is changing the entire community itself. You're putting another subdivision in the subdivision that in our community that exists. Second, the architecture that we've seen so far, none of these homes actually reference anything that exists in the 10-mile community. So these homes that we saw, the brick homes, even the elevated home that's a model, none of them exist essentially as they are now. And you're essentially just putting a new development that has no tie into the community within the 10-mile community. Thirdly, the water sewage system that was referenced. I believe everyone was told about the water sewage that they could link into, but those were at the price point that they were given to the community. It would require grants. So it's almost like a gift that can't be used. So I don't see how that's actually generous to the community. And then the last issue about working for years, 10 Mile's been trying to save itself for 20 years. We've only known about the historic designation for really the last year. And once we figured that out, we worked expeditiously to apply for this application. And the developers know that we've been trying to save this land. So to say that this was done before the historic, really, we've been trying for a generation to save this community. And if the historic preservation doesn't allow us to at least slow down some of this development, this will eventually displace the entire community that it currently exists through taxes itself. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Pearl Askew, 977 Caxtonville Road, Allendale, South Carolina. As the gentleman just stated, we were trying to save the 10-mile community for more than 10 years, decades if back. And the community center that's located there, that's on a 2-acre parcel. And the other homes, as the gentleman just stated, are on large parcels. The home that's in the middle is my daughter's. That's a part of the historical green belt. It's a half acre, but it's on frontage property that cannot be developed. And as far as the situation for the homes on Seafood Road, when the DHEC permit was issued, we had no knowledge of it because the fact that that is our historical baseball field, we were really concerned about artifacts on that property, that 5-acre tract. The developer at that time, I don't know if it has exchanged hand, but he would not acknowledge our requests for artifacts that was found on that property. And we are certain that there were artifacts there because that baseball field was a part of our historical district information. We played, the 10 Mile Eagles played there from the 30s on up to the late 90s. So there were a lot of disinformation in regards to that purchase of that 5-acre tract on Seafood Road. We tried to get with the developer to actually purchase it via the green belt to help save the marsh front. We also asked that they do not encroach on the on coming into the property after the purchase on Seafood Road. We asked them if it's possible if they could enter the property on Abe White Road, which is more, would not harm the system, if you will. There were eagles' nests on that area. We have pictures of it. So there's a lot of controversy on that Seafood Road project, and it definitely will change the character on Seafood Road because currently there's only one building there, which is the 10 Mile Community Center, and the drainage is extremely poor in that area. The gentleman just spoke. We have spoken extensively about the drainage that pours into the property at the community center, as well as the parcel that's next to it. Thank you, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Askew. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this request?
afternoon. My name is Raymond Brown. I live on 3965 Lucian Street. I remember when Seafood Road was paved, and it's always been a road where you could walk along, ride your bikes, you could fish from that road and stuff like that, which is important to the community. And as of right now, without the proposed development, traffic is becoming heavy. When tide comes in, it doesn't drain real well. The road is actually closed. You can't drive it. Water's settled on the road. I can only see this development adding to these sort of problems that we call problems, because we grew up without these things, but it's changing. That's going to make it worse than it is now. It's right now we don't have good exit out of the 10-mile community because of all the additional housing and traffic that's coming out. We can't get on Highway 17 Bailey because of the extra traffic and all the stuff that's coming out of these subdivisions is coming into the community. These things are impacting us in ways that we have never seen before. The community is difficult to recognize if you've been there for any period of time. And all these things are really changing the way we have to live. Not the way the new community is coming, but the way we actually have to survive in the community. So I'm opposed to what they're saying about this. What I think I heard from the gentleman that's representing the applicant, is that they had pre-approval before the historical preservation. Well, that might be true, but that's up to them. I'm not concerned about what they had approved and all that stuff and what they told you guys. But it impacts us, and that's what I'm concerned about. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Cora Swinton. I live at 1058 Gadsdenville Road, Orndorff, South Carolina. I am piggybacking off Mr. Pinckney, Ms. Askew, and Mr. Brown, because what they're asking for is just going to cause a catastrophe for what it is now. Like he said, the road is already covered with water when tide get high. And like those partial that they're building, they're elevating it so high, the slope, all the water and the drainage, that stuff is going to come in our yard, in our septic tank, and our drain field. Because right now, whereas I think like once a year, we used to get our septic tank drained, now it's every 6 months. And it's hard. Like, I'm always hearing Google, in my toilet, and in my kitchen sink is pluk, 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 because the drainage is coming up. They got those things elevated so high. And we are getting the reciprocal of it. We don't know what's going under the ground. So we are getting all that residue. And just like the property on Seafood Lane, I do believe that they cut down a grand tree over there, because the property belonged to my family. Not now, because they bought it. And there was a grand tree over there. We walked over there yesterday, it's not there anymore. The grand tree where the baseball guys used to play, the bleachers was right, the back fall was right in front of the grand oak. It's no longer there. It's no longer there. So I am in opposition up there, trying to come in and do what they're doing. Because it's just going to cause a catastrophe on what it is now.
Thank you, Ms. Swinton. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this request?
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
I'm Edward Brown, retired Navy, disabled veteran, and I'm here on behalf of my 87-year-old father and my 82-year-old mother. 10 Mile has been in our generation for 8 years. And I've watched, at least since I've been here, at least 5 generations come up there. And we're in objection to the plans and the way they want to build their new subdivision, because this would change the total landscape of what 10 Mile is. We've already been surrounded by subdivisions and we're basically closed in now. But if you're going to go forward, I would like to see the project be brought into the historic district that we are now. I don't know if that's possible, but I would hope that the council would definitely think about that. One of the other issues we have is, I don't know if it's rumor or fact, that they want to close off the back road and make it private. I don't know if that's true or not, but we don't go along with that. We don't want to see that happen. We want the Seafood Drive, Seafood Road to remain open to the public. As Mr. Raymond Brown said, we go out there and fish at times. We go out there and hang out at times. It's been generations. We don't want to see it privatized where we no longer have access to that road. My other thing is they say they want to change the name of Seafood Drive, but that name's been there for decades, and we're not interested in getting the name of the back road changed. So therefore, and one more question I don't understand, the signage, is that historical signage, or is that going to be signage where it's private road, no entrance allowed? So we want to know more about that.
Yes, sir.
And that's all I have.
I can speak to that last question, sir. So what the applicant is proposing is for the neighborhood signage, so for the name of the neighborhood to be displayed on 2 monument signs. Now, the staff recommendation is for something different. So the staff recommendation is for the installation of interpretive historic signage. So in theory, there could be a potential for both on these properties.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Name's Antonio Brown. That's my father that just spoke, and that's my grandfather sitting next to him. So you're looking at 3 generations of 10 Mile right here. But our biggest concern is tax issues. Like, I don't know if y'all can answer that, but how would it affect us? How would it affect my 87-year-old grandfather who's on Social Security? He doesn't have some big time retirement. How is that going to affect him so he can keep his property, so it can be future generations of the Brown family and 10 Mile? Another issue I have is drainage runoff. The creek is right across the road from this proposed subdivision. How is that going to affect? I like to go out there, harvest oysters, clams. We like to fish. How is that going to affect, our recreation? And, that's about it. I don't know if y'all can answer those questions, but that was some issues I had.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, before discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, on behalf of the applicant, and appreciate the members of the community that have come forward to speak. And some of those concerns are things that we've heard about. Some of those are new to us and items that we didn't hear about it, and Emily helped to clarify them. I think there's also been questions, beginning with Mr. Crowley, about the exact nature of what's before the board today. So if, Madam Chair, obviously I'm not a member of the commission, I cannot make a motion, but would invite the possibility of perhaps having these applications deferred, not withdrawn, but to give us the opportunity to work on some of these clarifications. I think also to perhaps get a better understanding about what is and what is not before the commission. And I think that could help. And I think we could also, I've got the names of the folks that spoke. I've known Ms. Askew for a number of years, but could also have the opportunity to address some of these issues. So I just wanted to, I know we're already in the middle of this application, but wanted to raise that as a possibility that the commission might consider.
Appreciate that. Yes.
But
Jason.
I just one, if I may make a comment before we get into that, I would support the opportunity for deferral with some suggestions of direction for the applicant. I'll just put that out there, and we can get into that in discussion if that is something that the commission would want to consider. I think that giving opportunities for us and the community and the applicants to get more information, more clarity, and perhaps some direction would be helpful. So I'll just leave it there if that is something that we want to do.
Thank you, Jason. Pat?
Yeah, I've been waiting for our time to ask questions, and it hasn't gotten there yet. So I do have comments before we vote on anything.
John?
Well, I mean, given the applicant's request for a motion, for deferral, I think it may not answer all the questions, but I think what it will do is gives us time to answer some of the questions that has been asked today, the community engagement, which is ultimately critically important, and so that when he does come back, and for those things that we may not be quite certain on, I think it gives us ample time to possibly get it right, as well as have the community either be in support or at least there's a happy medium. One thing I will ask is, will this community be separate from the historic district?
No, sir. This property is still part of the historic district.
So those new homes will be, of course, in that district. That's correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
I would just like for everyone to stand and took the time to come out here with us today. I just want everyone to stand and show their presence.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would make a motion to defer for up to 60 days to allow the applicant to work with the community, but and to provide us some clarity. And I can go into further, or I can pause.
The 60 days wouldn't even get them to the February meeting. Getting them to the January meeting would be tight. So February is February 15th. So
Okay, I was going to say up to 90 days. I just don't want it to exceed whatever legal limits there are that would create some sort of automatic. I would give an open-ended if that is easier. I just wanted to provide some structure with my points if I have a second. So maybe I'll just say, make a motion to defer, and I can go into discussion.
Oh, so then we can discuss.
Yes.
If I have a second.
I second.
I'll okay.
I second that motion, but I do have a question for legal. What is the extent? I mean, how far can this be deferred?
It's difficult to determine how far, but when we do need to give the applicant a definite time period. So Mr. Crowley has pointed out 60 days. Staff has told you the 60 days may be tight. Then 90 days, whatever number the applicant feels, works for him is appropriate. He just needs to be given a time so that he knows when he can come back.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I may, I have some specific things that that are jumping out to me, that whether this was just how the pack was put together or from the applicant, I would like to see more lot by lot specificity of either the types of houses, if each lot, if the entire site plan has the ability of any of these houses, or, I'm looking through this and it appears that there's generally a house plan or two for each lot, and are very large per each lot. I mean, it looks like we're going from, 2,400 to 3,500. And if I'm totally off the mark on that, my apologies. I'm trying to just go quick. I'm just having a hard time following this, and my apologies to staff or the applicant, all of the above, and the community if this is just, I'm looking at this wrong. But it seems that these houses on these lots are very large. I do believe that there should be a driveway and no drive under. I also have concerns about the monument signs, particularly the uplighting. This neighborhood is 10 Mile. This isn't the Overlook. This isn't the next one. This is 10 Mile, and I just don't think there should be signs leading into this. I mean, if you're part of the community, you're part of the community, and there shouldn't be any neighborhood signs. And I mean, you are getting a sense of where I will be going with this. So consider that in this time of how important signage is to you for that, because I don't think that is appropriate for this historic neighborhood to have what appears to be a separate neighborhood inside this historic district. And so those are some of the things that I would take the time to think about, if that's specifically what we're looking at. Thank you.
I at least wanted to add, address some of the concerns which you may have already noted in your notes, but there were a lot of issues that were raised. I do know that it's zoned, as it said, like, I guess 3 houses per, how many acres was it?
The base zoning is 4 dwelling units per acre.
4 dwelling, but that doesn't seem contiguous with the way the neighborhood in 10 Mile community is. So what I did hear is that that's going to be a problem for traffic. It's going to be a problem with drainage in terms of how they use the waterworks there, if they even can afford or have the capacity to be able to tap into that as you presented, but it doesn't seem as though that's the case. And so it may take a little bit longer than 60 days. It may take at least 90 days to flesh out all of these different issues. So I think that's something that would definitely need to be considered. The signage, the historic aspect of that baseball field, that seems to be very important to the community as well. And keeping the name of Seafood Road is very important to that community as well, keeping that name. So I think those are a lot of the issues that would need to be addressed.
I have a question. Is this 3 separate neighborhoods, 3 separate signage that you would try to? Okay. Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, may I make some comments now?
Yes, Pat, go ahead.
Okay. When I first started going through this application, and I saw, this is the before, all trees. And this is what exists now. All the trees are gone. All the trees are gone. And even before that, when I looked at the agenda and saw the number of houses that wanted to go in a certain area, I said, we are in trouble. What kind of trouble? Flooding. When you have trees like this, properties don't flood. I'll give you an example. Phillips on Highway 41 had no flooding problems until the big neighborhoods down the street went in, Riverside, etc. That's what's going to happen here, and it already has. I went over to 10 Mile twice, one time on my own on Sunday, and one time I met with several of the people who are in the room today. And the number one concern from them was flooding. They are already experiencing flooding because of this. They showed me where the water is coming down from these properties and down to their properties. So what's going to happen when the houses go on here? They mentioned the sewer issue, just like some people have already mentioned. And what is that going to be like after the houses are in here? So I realize y'all are way down the road on this. We just came into this. We have a duty to look out for these communities. And we have a pretty good feel for them. I've been working with them for a long time. And so we want to do what's best for them. We understand. Y'all want to make a profit on these houses. You want to sell a lot of houses and make a lot of money on them. You want to make pretty houses. But speaking of pretty houses, I also showed the people I met with yesterday, I showed them pictures that are in your application. I said, these are the styles of houses that they want to build. And they said, oh, they look like they belong on Isle of Palms. Not here. The styles that y'all came up with are not vernacular. The photographs that you showed earlier are more recent houses, and they're not necessarily built by 10 Mile residents. They're built by other people who come in. So, flooding, the style of the house. You mentioned award-winning designs. I don't think the people who live here care about award-winning designs. They want something that's compatible with where they live. And then somebody's already mentioned, they showed me the property, when we were looking at the property that overlooks Copahew Sound, they talked about the baseball field that used to be there and the grand oak tree. And as we were walking around, they said, where is that grand oak tree? And I don't know. I didn't see anything in the application where there was perhaps quite a while ago there was a request to remove it and we didn't know about it. But we wouldn't have allowed to have that grand oak tree removed. But it's gone now. And they remember it because they said the viewing stands for the baseball games were right in front of the oak tree. So they're not, this isn't like bad memory in my opinion. And then they mentioned sidewalks. They would like sidewalks, and I don't know if they've mentioned that to y'all or not. And it seems to me that the community has not been invited in to talk with y'all, or if they have, you haven't really heard them. And I'm saying that based on everything that I just told you. The flooding is huge. It's huge. Septic tanks, all of these people have septic tanks, so it's going to affect their septic tanks. And then the styles, please come up with something that represents the vernacular part of 10 Mile, not award-winning designs. I don't think they're looking for, maybe the people who buy your houses will like award-winning designs, but the people who live here already and who have lived here since right after the Civil War, that's what they can trace their ancestry back to post-Civil War. These are, the designs y'all came up with don't reflect that at all. So it sounds like you're hearing us because you're requesting, you want to go back and work on some things. So I totally support that, but I hope you really hear us and the people here, what their issues are. They were here first. They've been here since post-Civil War. Their families, they can trace their families all the way back. So please respect them in what you're doing here. And remember, we're not trying to be bad guys. We're put here to look out for the settlement communities. And I'm sure there's lots more I can say, but I'll stop right now. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Pat.
Can I make a motion to amend?
Yes.
Can we, well, Jason, will you be willing to commend your motion to 90 days for?
Sure, yeah.
Is that a motion?
I mean, I would keep it, if possible, I would keep it as long as they need to take the time to do a good job. If the council needs, or if the staff needs a specific amount, then 90 days I support.
Does 90 days put us in March? April?
Why don't we ask them?
Can we, the applicant,
What do you need?
But the 90 will get you to February. And the applicant can request another deferral on that meeting.
Okay. How much time, can we ask the,
yeah.
can we ask the builder, how much time would you need?
Madam Chair, until that next February meeting, and to address Mr. Crowley's concern that he raised, there's some, I don't know if it would apply to this board, but if a matter is not heard within a certain time frame, that it could be deemed approved. And so I just, on behalf of the applicant, am not trying to create any issue there. So we'll stipulate before your body that we would not take the position that as a result of this deferral, that the application would be deemed approved in any way. And just would ask that the deferral, if the commission sees fit, to its next meeting would be an appropriate time frame.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So-
sorry. Not, I apologize, not to the January meeting, to the February 15th,
Okay.
2023 meeting.
Okay.
It's only 2 weeks.
That's 2 months.
Okay, so,
From now to January is 1, January to February is 2 months.
Yes, ma'am.
But at 60 days?
That would be adequate for us to
Okay.
come back, and if we would report back differently then, we could, but we'd like to make progress in the interim and be back
okay,
before you.
so we're not amending.
Staff, what do you?
Well, since the math isn't working out with the 60 and 90 days, it seems like if the applicant's happy with the February meeting, why don't we just say the February meeting?
I support that.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
And even though 8 weeks sounds like a lot, the application deadline and getting the information to staff for review is several weeks before that.
December 30th.
Yes, yes.
So to articulate your emotion so that we're clear on what we're going to proceed on.
We will defer, or I make a motion to defer until the February board meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. All right, now that the motion has been moved and properly seconded, we are ready for the vote. Is there any other discussion? Okay, we're ready for the vote. All those who approve this motion, say aye.
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 All those who disapprove, say nay. The ayes have it. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the Historic Preservation Commission chooses to appeal this decision, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. The next agenda item is HIST 11-22-00065.
Madam Chair, could we ask the applicant if they would like to defer all of their applications?
Because they're all, yeah.
Because
they're
my
all
same
related?
comments will
Are they all
continue.
the same?
Yes, Madam Chair, the applicant would support that. Would
Okay.
be appropriate.
Very good. All right. So we move to defer this application. Is that their motion?
That's correct.
Okay.
And we could do it both this one and the, what is that, the
last one.
The sixth, yeah.
The last one.
I'll make a motion to defer both the second and the third.
Wait a second. Okay. We are ready for the vote. All those who approve the motion, say aye. All those who disapprove, say nay. The ayes have it. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the Historic Preservation Commission chooses to appeal this decision, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. The next item is the agenda. On the agenda is the director's remarks.
I have none. Yeah, I have none.
All right, if there is no further business,
We need to do anything for the meeting schedule.
Yes, sorry. Thank you, Jason. The 2023 meeting schedule is part of the packet, and we would like the Historic Preservation Commission to vote on that if you're okay with it. Yeah.
So question, are we moving to Wednesdays?
Yes.
Yes, that is something that came up. We, county council needs this room on Tuesdays, and sometimes their meetings start early. So we didn't really have a choice but to try to move the meeting day. Everybody, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Isn't, okay, all right,
is it Wednesdays the same time?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. If there is no further business, this meeting of the Charleston County Historic Preservation Commission stands adjourned. The commission will hold its next regularly scheduled meeting on January 18th, 2022 in council chambers.